Hello, everyone, and welcome to Unfuck Your Mind. I'm your host, Zach Liotis, and in today's podcast, I have Peter Wynn. Since 2009, he's been working as a trusted personal consultant and empowerment coaching professional who specializes in helping people dominate their issues and overcome their insecurities. Patrick coaches his clients in a way that utilizes both their heads and their hearts. He first learned about coaching when he hit a roadblock in his own life and was struggling to move past it. The techniques he developed were so successful that friends and family began asking him for help with their own challenges. This motivated Patrick to turn his newfound passion into vocation, to live their life. It's a great time to be alive. So true. Welcome to the podcast, Patrick. This is a great honor, seriously. And we got talking before the podcast and I had to stop you because we were about to get so deep, but bring us back to first and foremost where you had to overcome your issues and your insecurities.
Yeah, absolutely. So my personal issues and insecurities come from a very long time ago when I was 5 up until I would say 7 or 8. A family member of mine molested me and a sister, it's had been very sunk deep inside of me. And of course, coming from an Asian family, you don't want to raise these things up. You don't really want to talk to your parents about it. Funny enough, both my parents are now gone, and I've suddenly found the power to finally speak up more publicly about this. I guess simply because there's shame. Yeah, there's shame, there's guilt, there's embarrassment. And actually I'm starting to write my book based on all of these traumatic experiences as well. So I can assist the brotherhood, the sisterhood in healing themselves by acknowledging what has happened and understanding that everything that happens to you is based on the root cause of something prior to your experience that has led you to program your mind and so that you can think that this is good, this is not, this is the way people do it, this is not. And in my case, it was a very weird series of events. And I'm going to be very raw in this in this podcast with you so here I am being molested by my sister between 5 and 7, give or take. And then after that, I also was living with a brother of mine who had a lot of pornographic tapes, VHS tapes. And when he would be going away, he'd leave his door open, and I got basically exposed to these tapes. And I still remember watching a tape called Taboo, which was incest. And I'm watching this tape, and in the end, it's just making me think that whatever was happening to me, just like in the videotape, was okay, because on the videotape, it was happening. So I'm like, okay, my reality and what's being shown on the TV now is one and the same. And up until I was probably, I want to say 11 or 12, not until I was in the schoolyard and in high school, first year of high school. And I just asked some of my friends, like, hey, do you ever mess around with your sister? And then they didn't get where I was going. And then I understood from their reaction and their body language that it wasn't cool. And so, please, you seem like you had a question.
No, I'm just listening to you. I'm just like, yeah.
So I started doing research about I didn't even know the word incest. I didn't even know that word. Did the research, and then I started just reading books about incest and psychology at a very young age, and I understood then and there that my sister, who I adore, and I should also mention that about maybe 5 or 6 years ago, I actually did call her to, I wouldn't want to use the word confront, but I certainly needed to be acknowledged I had done the work, the pre-work for 20 something years, where I knew one day that I would actually bring it up and find the courage to bring it up. And I did. And all I needed from her was just to acknowledge that she did do it to me. Of course, I understood very well why it happened to me, simply because we lived in a very large family, and my sister, and for two reasons, she was always on the lookout for my parents' attention, especially my father. And she would get in trouble deliberately just so she could get caught, and that she could basically just have my dad pick her up at the principal's office. And then just a short story, I had done research where I found that when she was 5, she basically would steal her teacher's monthly salary just so that she could get caught, so my dad would come and pick her up. And it continued and progressed, and she became a kleptomaniac, where she would basically just steal things in order to hopefully get caught. And this went on for many, many years. And I can tell you that because when I was, I think, 15 or 16 at this point, we just decided to go to a Walmart together and steal a bunch of shit, literally shoplifting. And we both got caught. Thank God I wasn't of age yet, so I only went to juvie and did some community service work. While meanwhile, my sister, of course, went to jail and just served a very light sentence. So already I was able to determine and analyze that from the get-go, her personal childhood was already sort of messed up. And because of that, and then of course my parents, being a large family, 13 kids, my parents weren't around to take care of us. So it was always a sister or a brother that would take care of me. Naturally, of course, my sister was the youngest of the sisters. So of course she would be the one I was her responsibility. So she had no choice to be home and take care of me, even if she wanted to go out and hang out with her friends. And I think somewhere deep down, she had to take on this role as a mother since my mother wasn't around. So she was basically dealing with her own demons while also taking on the role as a mother to me. And I think somewhere deep down, I always sort of forgave her, although knowing that it was wrong, simply because she was the only thing that actually, she was the only person that was around sort of to take care of me. So I allowed the fact that she was a good, nurturing mother figure to me. And then I just forgot about that and told myself, it's cool, it's fine. I mean, I shouldn't worry about these things and not let that sort of traumatic experience victimize me to a point of paralyzing me.
Can I just ask you this question? Did she acknowledge what she did to you in that conversation?
She did acknowledge that in the conversation. It was very hard for her, and I didn't want to press furthermore down, because really all I needed was just to hear that she acknowledged that it did happen. Thankfully, I want to say, just perhaps for the both of us, not to make the situation more intense. I just decided to do my own pre-work, pre-healing. And that was just the last part, the last bit that I required. Just that acknowledgement was all that I needed.
Sometimes that's all you need, is just that acknowledgement in order for you to feel fully so-called healed,
Yes.
At the end of the day, it's like, I want to know if she knows or he knows. Well, for you, it's the she recognizes the suffering that I went through. While she was going through her own suffering, she brought me into suffering as well, with maybe subconsciously not realizing it because she was seeking attention from someone else.
Yes.
Right? And that's the whole thing. It's like, okay, I just want this acknowledgement to know that, you know what? I'm not at fault here. I didn't do anything bad. This was something that was put onto me and something I had to deal with and something I've dealt with. I've done my healing around it, because I know you've done your healing around it. I know that you've risen beyond it because you're talking about it. True. Those who heal through an issue and are able to speak about it have truly healed from the root. So, you know what? Kudos to you, because that's a difficult situation to deal with, especially when it comes to your family. And that's a family molestation, right?
Yeah.
We got talking about this regarding the Me Too movement. And we said this before the podcast, like it was a great movement. I feel like the women got to stand up, to speak their truth, to talk to, the predators. But I also felt there was a massive disconnect when it came to our divine masculine, to our masculine energy, because not every masculine or every man, understood the whole movement. Yes, they were happy that the women are rising, but their wounds came up even stronger. And then they start thinking, did I do anything to hurt a woman? Like, was I inflicting my issue on a woman? Like the wounds that were put on me, the beliefs that were put on me from childhood. So this is how all this came into context. And I'm happy because at the end of the day, there's so many men, as we said, that went through rape or molestation, but it's not something you hear all the time.
No. Because there's shame, especially between men. Men, and back in the days, you're being programmed to be sort of macho-y, He-Man-ish. And of course, I wouldn't be going into a locker room and just sharing with my friends, yeah, so my sister was like, heck no. And of course, you're bringing shame to your family. There's just so many variables that makes it taboo to talk about. So in the end, it's just you crumbling down upon yourself, just holding yourself in sort of a fetal position every night, and just sort of trying to hold space for yourself, having absolutely no one to talk to, not knowing if anybody else shares this with you. And yeah, it was certainly very hard.
Was there any family members that experienced the same thing, or was it just you?
To my knowledge, no one. And I'll be honest with you, the rest of my family members are extremely conservative. I'm, of course, the black sheep of the family who have understood, sort of more been connected more with my inner self, finding spirituality, healing through multiple different types of modality and practices. So my family are extremely sort of matrix 9 to 5 conservative. And for me to be able to bring this up, oh my God, they would probably not being able to talk at all. And I have tried a few things or try to bring up maybe different types of modalities with my family to heal with them, being that it's either to just smoke cannabis or do some kind of MDMA therapy, but it hasn't been opened, and I don't wish to pry, and I don't wish to force it on them. So whatever is supposed to happen will happen, but at the very least, I'm on the path of at least healing myself first and foremost. But I figured that if my family is not willing to talk about it, then at least I want to go out there and tell men and women that what has happened to you is sad. However, we don't need to live with this. We need to act on it and acknowledging it, being aware of it, being conscious about it, and work with this darkness and heal from the roots, as you said.
Yes. So now that you've gone through the process, confronted your sister, she acknowledged it. How has life changed for you?
Oh my God, it was game changer, honestly. I just feel more authentic. I just feel more genuine. I don't feel that heaviness of guilt, of embarrassment, of shame. Man, I won't even know why was I shaming myself since it happened to me. And this is we're so weird and screwed up and fucked up in this society, because society programs you through this weird blueprint that makes you think that what happened to you is shameful and embarrassing to talk about. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for that, for sure, in the last few years, I've seen a tremendous change in how I perceive the harmonious relationship between the divine feminine and the divine masculine. And I mean, essentially, we all have a feminine and masculine side in all of us, being that we're gender, whatever gender we are. And it's knowing to balance continuously and having this yin and yang dance just continuously play around you. Man, that is one of the hardest tasks, I want to say, for a human being, is to go out there and just reach into the deep, dark side of you and just pull it all out. Just remove all these roots and just chew them up and go like, no, I am no longer a victim of this situation, and I relinquish all the hurt that has happened to me, and I wish to propel myself to a new level of love and light, in finding more compassion, more empathy, coming from a heart-centered, focused place of non-judgment. These are the foundation of what it is to heal from a human being, and then allowing others, holding space infinitely for others, understanding that they're also on their own mission, respecting it, honoring it, and trying to do our best between each other to heal and assist each other, and knowing that there is no good and there is no bad. There just is. It's the experience in itself. But there cannot be any judgment of the experience. Simply because we have different perspective of something that has happened to us doesn't make us faulty. We're all unique and authentic and genuine in our own way, and we're all beautiful in our own way. And it's to get back that sovereignty of finding your inner beauty, not outwards, but very much so inwards.
Yes. Oh, wow. Woo, amen. You got my heart floating. It's so true on all levels. It truly is. So for the divine masculine that has gone through a certain situation, as you may be not similar, what is it that you could say to him?
To the divine masculine who has grown up and who had difficult time, I think it would be important that this divine masculine understands that they are not alone. First and foremost, that everything that they're going through, they're not alone, that there are others like them who have gone through maybe experiences that are not the same, but they're still the same at the core. And that alone, we might not make it, but together as a collective, we will. And it's time to open up to each other and allowing ourselves that all types of conversation are no longer taboo. Everything is okay. Everything that you want to share with me will be shared in a safe space, containment, and there will never be a judging eye that will lay on you. Mm-hmm. That's what I would want to say to all these men. And I would welcome every single man out there to heal that inner child, because it's that inner child that sparks that happiness inside of you.
Absolutely.
That inner child is very much so the blueprint that you need to reprogram to find that state of flow, of contentment, of blissful joy again inside of you. The more you are connected with that inner child, and the more you heal that inner child, is the more how you will project and protract your light through love with others, and finally work in collaboration and cooperation with all of our brothers and sisters on this planet and in the universe.
Yeah, and that is more explosive and more powerful than anyone can imagine. And that's the vision that, Spirit gave me at the end of 2018 into 2019. They gave me this big mission, and I was just like, okay, let me take a deep breath on this one and try to figure this one out, but I'm going to put it out there. And I started off with Wise Women Wednesdays, and I kept on hearing, don't forget the men, don't forget the men, don't forget the men. And because I feel I have a good balance between my masculine and feminine energies, I had to heal a lot of my masculine. I had to really let go of the suffering of the past, how I was treated, how I even treated the masculine. It wasn't just how I was treated, it's how I treated the masculine. Because I had this gift from a very young age. I knew how I could manipulate people. I knew how I could, play with your mind and do this. And that's not a very heart-centered way of getting attention. So I had to heal those aspects. So when this mission came to me to connect with a divine masculine, I was like, yes, I'm ready for this, because there's still always healing to be done. There's like, it's always layer upon layer upon layer. And it's just like, you know what? I want to hold space for these men. I want to say, you know what? You're safe. Speak your mind. Stand your ground. Like, you are not that person your parents told you you should be. You are who you need to be, regardless of how it is. And macho isn't that you have like the six pack and these like 22-inch biceps. Like, yeah, I know that I have a good vision of what we could do with all that. But at the end of the day, you know what? There's something inside of you that's more powerful than anything else. And that is the biggest turn on anyone could have. Even a man with a man having the conversation, it's like, yo, dude, like, I love you. And for a guy to say that to another guy, I remember like on my couple of podcasts, the second one, I believe it is, he's like, Zach, like, to hug another man and to say, buddy, I love you. Like, not all men could do that.
No. And again, you know, social stigmas. Hugging another man is like, oh, he's gay. I'm like, it's just human beings showing love and affection to each other. And we need so much of it to heal. Mm-hmm. And that's the other thing too, is people don't understand as well the 5 love languages, that every single human being requires like to receive or can only offer in one of these love languages. Very few are polyglots who basically can speak all 5 languages. I've spent the last 5 years just mastering all 5 love languages in receiving and in offerings, just so I can understand people better and offer them exactly the frequency and vibration and the modality that they wish to receive the message of love. And that takes a lot of conscientious action and thought, but I'm so happy to do it, because man, in healing the world is healing yourself. We're all one. We're all from one source consciousness, and people will eventually understand that when you're hurting someone, you're simply hurting yourself. Everyone is a mirror of you through consciousness. And if you're being triggered, well, it's obviously because there's something that you need to work inside of you, and there's a certain thought that you need to meditate on. Mm-hmm. And if you understand that surrendering to the moment, to the now, to the present is always the gift, as you are the student of life, of the journey, and the divine is the journey and the journey is the teacher, man, you will forever be in blessings of just receiving so much downloads and have your iOS system go into this crazy expansion pack upgrade.
Yeah, totally. And this is something that we always talk about. The more that you clear out that lower vibrational frequency, which is the fears, the doubts, the old suffering, the old stories that are not even your stories, they're imprints that were put onto you. The more that you clean it out, now you are literally that beacon, that stream for energy to power right through. And that right there is your light shining brighter than anything. And not everyone's going to understand that. I get that. This is why you and I and many people are put on this earth to shine our light, to awaken, right? But it takes time. This isn't something I worked on and woke up one day and said, oh, I'm enlightened. I still don't feel enlightened. I'm still human. I still, drop an F-bomb, or someone will piss me off, or I'll, whatever it may be. But I still have in my conscious awareness, like, okay, where did that come from? Why did you allow people to trigger you that way? Is this an old belief, or is this something that pisses you off that you can't stand, so you don't want to even be involved with that person anymore? So it just gives you this metamorphosis of so many other ideas and growth, and just so much more, to be more, to become more, and to open up your heart to receive more. And for men, I find it's hard for them to open up their heart. Even when you're saying, I come from the heart. What does that mean to a man? Like, exploring from the heart, because they weren't taught to work from the heart.
No. It's so true. Like, we were always taught about me, men, you, like I go hunt and gather, and you stay here and take, like, man, there's just so many old social construct. And again, there's the other factor, which is ancestral karma. There's also that DNA, like ancestral karma that is in your coding that you also have to be aware of and then work with. So not only you're taking care of your own shit that has happened to you in this timeline, in this dimension, and then on top of that, you're carrying the gene of your family. So if your family has gone through World War I, World War II, and always been on this survivor mode, so of course you inherit that. And then, man, pile that up with all the other timelines and lifetimes and, past karmic contracts that you haven't finished yet. There's so much work to be done. Like you said, every day there's work to be done nonstop. And this is where I find meditation is so key, especially doing a forgiveness practice, Ho'oponopono, where every day I take the time to just ask for forgiveness to all the souls that I have hurt voluntarily or involuntarily in all the past timelines and dimensions and in this one. And I also offer forgiveness to every single soul that have hurt me voluntarily or involuntarily, because we don't know any better sometimes, and people will hurt you and they're not aware of it because, of course, as well, people don't have the notion of EQ. Yes, everybody knows about IQ, but not many know about EQ, emotional quotient, where it's important to have this peripheral awareness of people's emotions, not to hurt them, and wow, honestly, man, being a human being, it's a fucking tough job.
It is. It really is. And I totally get it. I remember I was going through my dark moment and I looked up and I looked at the sky and I said, God, I'm never fucking coming back here again. This is my last bout. I'm tired. I'd rather stay in meditation all my life than live this human experience. And then I heard Mother Mary, like Mother Earth say to me, come for a landing, my dear child. You've been up there too long. Come and see how beautiful the earth actually is. And I'm not lying, Patrick, it took me months to want to listen to that. Months, probably years to want to listen to that, because all I saw was suffering. All I saw was people wanting to hurt other people because of what I went through. And it was like, okay, now I have to heal another part of my masculine. Now I have to heal another part of my feminine. Now I have to heal another part of my spiritual DNA, my, bloodline DNA. Now I have to do all this. It's just like, does this ever end? Does this ever end?
Of course it never ends, because we're infinite. We're multidimensional, living in a dualistic world. And that's the whole point of it, is like you're going from the 5D, integrating and into this 3D life form here only to learn more. And I'm going, man, when am I going to stop learning? But it just doesn't. And naturally, this is where I get propelled to the thought, which is, you must because you can, and simply because you have the power to. It's your fundamental responsibility as a soul in this universe, part of consciousness, to be on this mission that you picked. Although, of course, you forgot that you picked this mission when I imagine the divine rolling out multiple sort of game cartridges in front of me when you pass away and you go on your bardo, and then you finally get to okay, what would you like your next soul mission to be? And I'm going okay, Super Mario Brothers, not into that anymore. All right, which game do I want to play with? And I'm like, okay, so if you pick this game cartridge and put it in this console, you will now learn more patience. As if I didn't learn enough patience already, but fine, more patience it is, more compassion, more empathy, more this, more that. And that's how I feel about incarnation. Every time is no, Patrick, you didn't learn enough compassion and empathy and patience. Go for more, have more discipline. I'm like, man, how much more marooning am I going to do to myself? What kind of masochist am I?
It's so funny that you say that, because the patience always hits me in the forehead. It's like, patience. And I'm just like, seriously, you've sent me on many missions to learn this patience thing, and I still haven't learned patience. And I could hear my spirits go, not fully, keep on going. And I'm just like, wow. And I know patience is the hardest thing for anyone to attain. Everyone that I've spoken to, it's like, I know, right? Be patient. And I'm just like, it's not even about the patience. It's about the knowingness and the trust and faith within you that it's all going to turn out. But it all is under this umbrella of patience, right? Because the universe has to put it together. Your actions have to create it. And then all of a sudden this unveiling of something even better is going to show up. And then you're going to be like, oh, wow, I never thought it was going to come out this way. Oh, that's awesome. Like, yeah, a little bit of patience got you more than what you even thought you could receive.
And again, you know, people tend to forget that, as they say, love is infinite. But people forget that the derivatives of love are also infinite. Patience is a derivative of love. Compassion is a derivative of love. Empathy is a derivative of love. Every single thing, I can name you probably 1,000 words that are all derivative of love. Thoughtfulness, caring. And this is what people don't realize is within this quantum matrix, call it consciousness, call it divine, call it God, the like substance to all of it is love. Light is projecting everywhere in every single direction in the universe, and what's coded in this light is love. And at the end of the day, hence the Beatle always knew all you need is love. Love is the answer to everything. Love will cure everything. The wars, the famines, like any arguments coming from a heart-centered place is, but it's such a easy, simple, but foreign like concept to so many of us that we're just so baffled that we cannot integrate that lesson.
Yeah, because love is everything, and you hear people saying all the time, just send it to love or let love through. And I know I always crack up jokes, and I say, yes, it's about love. I know you're going to say that. Well, let's look at it, because I know you're going through suffering right now, right? But why are you going through that suffering? What are you to learn about yourself that you stop loving yourself in that process that brought you that suffering, that you so freely gave your power away because you were seeking love to begin with. So you're seeking love, and then all of a sudden here came pain because you had to learn that outside of you is not the love, it's internal.
And again, that paradigm where I'm safely saying 9.5 people out on the street out of 10 have lack of self-love. The most secure human being with all the wealth in the world and all the confidence in the world still has insecurities. It's impossible not to have insecurities because everyone has at least dived into the challenge of finding love for themselves at least once in their life. And of course, self-love trickles down to self-confidence, to self-esteem, self-respect, self-honoring. And it's crazy how every single human beings on this journey, on this mission, all go through that discrepancy about not having love for themselves. And like you say, going outwards looking for love instead of going inwards. And then, of course, you only care about what people think about you. You only care about the media. You care about how many likes you're getting on Instagram or Facebook and whatnot, because all you need is the validation and gratification from outwards. But meanwhile, you're not validating yourself, because as human beings, and there you go, the word being is about being, and to be is to be in the face of a mirror. Because if you were living on an island by yourself and only talking to yourself, then you don't have any mirror to acknowledge that you are alive, that you are being. And just like Tom Hanks, who basically, of course, had to create Wilson, the ball, so that he would talk to somebody, because that's what created that mirror for him to acknowledge that I'm still alive, I am being. But this is the fucked upness to all of it, is that nobody here teaches us that self-love is the most important thing, first and foremost. I would hope and wish that all the future generation of children from this point on, when I ask them the question, who was your first love, that they actually tell me myself. That you actually develop and you are in love with yourself. That is the key to everything, to starting a great journey for yourself as a human being on this earth.
Yeah. And it's so true. And it starts from home. And that's the biggest thing. That's why I always say parents have a good way of screwing up our future generation, just like our parents screwed us up. But we had to find our way through. And just like their parents screwed them up, because at the end of the day, it's not my parents' fault that they, raised me with some sort of wounds or imprints, because their parents did the same thing and they didn't know any better. They were coming in, doing what they were taught. But that's why the more that we awaken, the more that we allow and understand this concept, and trust me, I've had very difficult relationships growing up with my mom, my dad, and I, always me fighting because I was the black sheep as well in my family, the free spirit, that you'll never be able to make it, people always putting me down. And it became one of those things where I thought to myself, you know what? I'm not that person they're actually telling me I am. I need to break free from that. And when I allowed myself to break free, first and foremost, I had no choice because cancer got to me. Then depression kept on coming to me. But when I decided to say enough from the outside world, from my inner heart, life changed. And once you start building that confidence, that's why I could meet up with people and we could have these great conversations, because we continuously are healing. But once you got those big wounds out of the way and learned and been like, yeah, I've been there, man, I get it. It's the same pain, the same suffering. The only difference is that you went through a different journey than I did.
Yeah. But essentially the healing is all the same. Like, we're all here trying to find modalities to heal that very specific pain that is just dug deep into your root chakra. And man, it's just unbelievable. And then of course, that's probably another task that is just so hard for us black sheep, is to detach yourself from our family and be completely banished from them, and going like, you're in the case of my family, is like, he's a hippie. I was like, they have to of course utilize a word to associate, because they have to box me into a word so that they can understand me better. I'm like, fine, you want to call me hippie, and because I want to give back to the world, I'm a socialist, fine, give me whatever imprints and vocabulary you wish to, but that's not gonna wave me to become anything else than myself. And walking the path of authenticity, of genuineness, that is probably one of the hardest things as well for a human being, to follow your personal North Star guidance and light, and just to say fuck you to everybody around you, not because you don't love them, but you just can't get along. And this is why I always say with my family members, like, I love my family, but I don't like my family. And
total different things right there.
Exactly. I will always love my family, no matter what, how many different discords and arguments that we're going to go through, and not have the same views on anything. But of course I would just run to them and a beck and call should something happen to them. But at the core is like, you have no choice to keep these distances, because their auric field mixed into yours completely screws you up. It makes you doubt yourself. And then of course, doubt leads into fear, and then fear completely fucks you up all over again.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to ask you a question. What does happiness mean to you?
Oh man. So for me, happiness has to start with the most simplest point of contentment. And for me, when I wake up in the morning, I'm thankful for my breath, because thankful for my breath, for the oxygen that comes into my lungs, is what is going to give me that pulse to just get out of my bed and be able to wake up and be a fucking superhero for myself and for everyone else around me, to make life different, better. Even if I can just help one person every day, then at least I want to say that my job here on earth is fulfilled. Just to be able to bring one smile and change someone's day just by a little brink of positivity. And this is where gratitude comes into play. If you are grateful for the smallest little things in life, being that is oxygen, food, waking up next to the love of your life, or going to pick up your godson or goddaughter at school, and just seeing that very beautiful, divine, innocent smile just come at you, there is no shortage of example and proof of happiness around the world. Because life is truly made out of the small things. Happiness lies in the smallest little particles, but we're too busy. Our mind is just too clouded and busy in being in survival mode, the 9 to 5, going to grind. So of course, you get narrow-minded and you don't get to see all these beautiful things that are just right next to you. And if you had more love and gratitude for everything every day, believe me, like, of course you believe me, you would start your day on such an amazing high. And of course, going to bed with love and gratitude. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the 5-minute journal. So obviously you are. And so I've obviously just practiced the 5-minute journal vocally through my meditation practice. But being grateful just for 3 things in the morning and being grateful for 3 things at night, man, that just always leaves you in this constant momentum, auric Taurus energy of like, life is fucking grand and beautiful. It's a great time to be alive. Why wouldn't I want to be my optimum self, to live my best self, and to assist others if I can, on top of that, to live their best selves?
Yeah, it's so true. And I'm also grateful for the things that haven't even shown up in my life. I always say that. I'm grateful for this. First thing I say, I open my eyes up, I'm like, oh, I got another day to do this. This is great. Okay, let's do this. So that's amazing. So what would Patrick tell his inner child now?
I would tell to my inner child that everything that has happened to this inner child since day one has happened for very beautiful reasons that has led me to become this amazing, wonderful, beautiful human being today because of all of these experiences. No matter how hurtful, dramatic, traumatic they have been, but think about it, little Patrick, you have grown, you have surpassed yourself, and you have found happiness. And you did it all by yourself. Yes, of course, with the assistance of all your peers around you, but initially you found the courage and the strength to do it yourself, to go out there, to recognize what happened to you. Instead of you feeling just so shameful and hiding in a corner in the dark, you decided that there was light inside of you and that there was love inside of you, and it needed to come out to heal, but it also needs to come out to be shared with others so that we can be progressive as a collective together.
Amen. Oof, I felt that one. Give us the hope and no prayer.
I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you, little Patrick.
Wow, I got goosebumps all over my body. Patrick, thank you so much for being on today's podcast. This was a beautiful podcast, and thank you for sharing your vulnerability, because in that vulnerability is so much strength. It's so much divine masculine, sacred masculine. And this is the part that we need more of in this world. And, you know, I talk to women, they're like, we need more awakened men. And I said, yeah, they're here. They're just far and a few. But the ones that I'm speaking to, the ones that I've spoken to, the ones that I'm going to speak to, they bring hope to a lot of women to the world on so many levels, because the divine feminine, we need the masculine as much as they need, you know, as much as you guys need the feminine. We are in true harmony with one another on so many levels, just waving our energy, whichever way it is, and bringing that activation of love, bringing the activation of oneness and unity and compassion. Anything could change in the world when we have that within ourselves first and foremost, and then sharing it with someone else. So thank you on so many levels for being here and sharing your heart with us.
Zach, thank you so much for this mission that you're on, for using all of your tools and your practices and modalities to just spread so much love and assisting the collective consciousness to heal. So for me, it's a true honor, privilege to be here with you. And I know very well that this is not the very last time, but in the 5D world, you and I are just doing our mad powerhouse work, and I know that we're gonna get to be able to just enjoy all of this once we go back into the 5D.
Exactly. Well, we're gonna stay in the human world and meet each other eventually. So
Absolutely.
I'm excited for that as well, because I've lived in the 5D for many, many years, and Mother Earth now wants me to walk on the earth. So I could enjoy everything that has come to fruition. But for sure. We're in that 5D world. We're in that 7. We could be at the 13D or the 101D. There's so many dimensions out there. Once you get to it, it's unstoppable. It's beautiful. It's awakening. It's activating. And this is the beauty of everything. When we all come together as a collective, as a higher consciousness, you know what? Spirit said to me, if everyone could unfuck 1% of their mind, change could happen drastically. And that's why they came up with this name, Unfuck Your Mind. This wasn't my name. This was Spirit's name that came forward. So thank you so much for giving us that courage to speak up, especially for the divine masculine when it comes to, you know, the whole rape thing, ancestral rape, anything like that. So anyone that, you know, feels connected to Patrick, all of his social handles and his website are just in the show notes below. If you feel connected and need someone to speak to on this level and you want to become more vulnerable with someone that's not going to be judgmental, but is going to understand you at all levels of consciousness and show you the 5 love languages and allow you to be who you are in your eyes and not in anyone else's eyes, please contact Patrick and get a hold of him and watch the magic happen from there. Everyone, thank you for listening. Not even watching, but thank you for listening to Awaken Men Mondays. We are so happy that you're here, and we look forward to having you again next week. Bye for now.
Bless your heart and soul. Goodbye.